Welcome back, part 3. When we left you last, our superhero, no. In part 2, we talked about risk. We kind of delved into risk, understand the risk frameworks. Specifically, we went into risk management framework, right? And we talked about the 6 steps of the framework, but really getting a better understanding of risk. And then we looked at the controls or the countermeasures that we put in place to mitigate the risk. And really from a cyber perspective, that's what we really work to do, is try to mitigate risk. So now let's talk more about the how. That what we talked earlier was a lot of the why. So here's some of the how. That's what we talk about when we talk about security in depth and risk to critical information. So it still always comes back to, where is the golden eggs? That's what I like to call them. What are we actually protecting? Where is the critical data, or the CPI, the critical protected information? And many times that resides on our network somewhere in a file folder, in a file share, on a hard drive, on a network resource of some type. But that is what you always want to identify. Now, as simple as this may sound, believe me, most organizations do it backwards. We started the technology in and work forward, instead of saying, wait a minute, what are we trying to protect, and then build from that. So that's why I like looking at it from a security in depth. So because if you tell me what's important that needs to be protected, now we can start building the layers behind that. So it means that I know if I've got my data in some type of file share, well, that file share is probably sitting on some type of server that's giving access to that file share. Now, how do you get to that server? Well, there's probably some type of switching, depending on your network, whether it's a layer 2, layer 3 device maybe sitting here, some type of access or some type of core switch that's controlling the connectivity to there. And then we have access switches that'll take us to actually going to connect up to your individual local area networks. So now if I'm an authorized user, now as from a cyber, I need to be able to control who can make it through each of these devices, each of them, whether it's a network device or whether it's a computing resource, and to get to here. So I need to first be able to control, is this individual authorized? Going back to our earlier discussions on authorization and access control, that access control model. Because what I want to be sure that I've got, the VLANs, access control list in place, that if someone's trying to get into here, they're not on an access control list, they get stopped. But let's say they are. Same thing here. I want to be sure that I've got access controls in place on my core switches, core routers, so that again, this individual who's authorized can make it through. Now, once I get here, I want to let's be sure that this individual have the right accesses and permissions. And this is really account management, so that if they're hitting this, they could be remoting in to our organization and hitting that file share, or it could be a web service, a web browser, or whatever it may be, so that they've got the right accounts, the proper credentials on this device, so that they are authorized to get to these folders. But what I also want to do on these folders, especially if it's my critical information, this is where I set up access controls. This is where we talk about access control models, discretionary access control. It could be role-based access control or mandatory access controls. Yeah, you're going to get into some of these terms, so I'm just going to help you understand these terms when you start reading them. So here's where I want to set up different types of access controls, because if I am the information owner, I want to have the right to set permissions, so that even though this person may be authorized to come through my switch or through the VLAN, if they're authorized to go through the core switch or router, they may be even authorized to have an account on this server. But again, even though they're authorized, doesn't mean that they have access. Authorization is different than access. So now the information owner is controlling access. IT may be controlling authorization of who's authorized to get through the network. But right here, this is where it's from a cybersecurity perspective. I want to ensure that the information owner have the ability to control who they give file access to for that critical information. At the same time, we want to be sure that we are stopping the adversary at each of these touch points, at each of these layers, each of these layers of the onion. You know, that's how you hear it called the onion that you peel back. We want to be sure that if an adversary is trying to get in either any of these places, and especially here when we start talking insider threat, because this may be a person who have been already authorized to get here, but do not have the access to get here. This may be someone who actually may have access, but we want to be sure that even though they have, and this is where it gets really tricky from an insider threat. This person right here, all right? They've been authorized, they have accounts to make it all the way through the network and actually to get here. But they still, that is your worst insider threat. Why? Because they are fully authorized and access to that critical data. So how do we start protecting that? Well, this is where we start looking at activities. This is where, from an auditing perspective, I'm looking at how much is this individual, what are they printing? How much data are they actually moving back and forth? And is that authorized data? Because what I want to be able to do is show the information owner that, hey, look, you have this individual, even though they're accessed, they're on the list to get to that information, but they look like they're doing some very nefarious activity or anomalous activity. They're coming in at 10 o'clock at night and they're moving files to a USB drive. May not be a good thing. Or they're doing a lot of printing, extraordinary amount of printing. Those are the type of things, again, from that auditing, monitoring perspective that we want to look at, because that is really now where our threat resides, is that insider threat. So that is the security in depth, tells us the how. This is now that we've got our policies, procedures, our governance, doctrine, we've applied our risk frameworks. Now this is the how. We want to do that. So in this process, who are some of the key stakeholders? Yeah, the who. When we think about, and these are just some, this is not 100%, but it's just some ideas to get you thinking about people to be aware of in your organization who are key stakeholders. Now, I broke this up into two categories: external roles or external stakeholders, internal stakeholders. External stakeholders, I'm looking at people like our authorizing official. That's the person who says, yes, this information system has been accredited and it is authorized to operate. Security control assessors. Remember we talked about step 4 of that risk management framework model, assessing controls. This is the individuals, and many times this is a third party that we bring in. Sometimes you have these local in your organization. You have your internal security control assessors, which is great, really. But many times, we bring this skill set in from the outside, a third party who looks at this with a more objective look. Common control providers, meaning that you may inherit controls, security controls from other places or from other organizations, or if you're in the federal government, you may inherit them from the federal government, where they provide you controls. And really the mission business owner, that's who you really want to work with, because at the end of the day, whether it's a business, whether it's the federal government, the Department of Defense, someone is using this information for a reason, and they are the ones who whether it's for a mission from a DoD, Department of Defense perspective, if it's from a business perspective, that information is critical. So the owner of that needs to be, is a key stakeholder in this process. Now, internal roles, your information system owner. Now, not to always be confused with this person, your mission business owner. This person is many times responsible for the information. This person is responsible for the information system that processes the information or stores the information or transfers information. So many times these are not the same two. These could be two different stakeholders. Also in the organization, we should have our ISSEs, our information system security engineers. What they are responsible for, from an engineering perspective, is engineering security into our systems up front. And then we're looking at those technical controls. Our information systems manager, ISSMs, they are responsible again for really the overarching security within the organization for that information system. These are key players who communicate, daily with that information system owner to ensure that the system is secure, that is properly monitored, and everything is running well, and information is being protected. We're protecting the confidentiality, we're protecting the integrity and the availability of the information, and you will have an ISSO, which is an information system security officer, who works hand in hand for or with the ISSM to ensure the integrity of the information that we're working with on those systems. So actually, just a handful of the key roles. And there are more, trust me, there are more. But I think these are some of the key ones that you will see within your organization with respect to cybersecurity. All right, so now let's bring this all together, okay? So, and really, I try to bring this together from a system development lifecycle model. Because no matter what, if your business or company, organization that you're working with, really you're there to produce a product. You're taking something from concept development all the way to production and sustainment. So that's really kind of what I'm trying to address here is how do we bring these pieces together? Whether we're talking about the acquisition side of it, the milestones, our risk management framework steps, and then the documentation that we need for within that framework. So here I'm just going to use this analogy of a company that builds radar, okay, radar systems. So there's initial concept. So, somewhere in that company or somewhere, let's say this is a defense contract. They want to sell some type of equipment, radios, and everything to the Department of Defense. Well, there's an initial concept, and let's just say that the government, the Department of Defense, want to have a radar that can look into outer space, okay, and see if there's alien life on another planet. And that's going to be a great radar. Whew. But anyway, so that's initial concept. And at that phase, after that phase, then they want to take that into some type of refining. Because here you're just going to have big brain engineers figuring out, can we even do that? I don't know. And they're just trying to make stuff happen. Well, then they go, well, we've got some ideas. We got a bread box. We've got some things in a sandbox here. We think we can show that our government customer. So they hit a milestone and say, okay, here's our concept. Now let's see if we can refine that, because now we're seeing some little blips out there that could be life. I don't know. Well, then what they want to do, they want to integrate that radar on some type of platform, some type of system. Maybe they want to fly it on a plane so they can get closer up to the outer atmosphere and get a better look angle. So they said, well, let's take this thing this concept that we've kind of developed and refined, and let's put it on an aircraft. So now they're going to integrate that onto some type of platform, and then they're going to fly that aircraft up to near space and see if it actually works. If it does, they're going to start producing them. Wow, we got something working. So you see, you've gone from an initial concept all the way to where you built something, got it produced, and it's out there working. Well, the same things during these phases of system development. Really, this is where we should be working our cybersecurity. Whether it's, and I'm going to just use that RMF framework as the backdrop for this, because at step one, even in this initial phase, this is when we just start doing that categorization of what type of information systems, what type of information categorically are we think we're going to need to protect as they are building this out. Because you think about this, there's a lot of intellectual property that's being developed that a competitor, to your business, as well as some type of threat actor, it could be a nation state actor, that, hey, we would like to get this technology before them, because if we can build this first, we're going to be, the first one out to shoot with it, and we're going to make all the money, and we're going to have the technological advantage. So this is right here where you want to start building your security plans and doing risk assessment in that step one, in that categorization phase, so that you're looking at what type of critical information needs to be protected. As the concept here becomes more refined, what should we be doing here? Again, starting to update these plans. And so as the concept gets refined, our security plans and posture should also get refined. And now as we look out into this area right here, where we're getting into, no kidding, we've got a component, we've got a box, we got a device that's almost ready to go into full rate production. Well, that's when we really need to step up our game, was implementing the actual controls, developing those assessment plans so we can assess these controls so that we can get that system authorized for use. So that's how these 5 steps should be coming into play, and that as we go through that system development life cycle. So when we hit step 6 and our company starts to sell this product, to the Department of Defense or to the federal government, now we can start doing continuous monitoring, because we want to be sure that the controls we've put in place here, they are still working, and we're able to continuously monitor those as we update our authorization documents, whether it's our system security plans, our traceability metrics, all the things that's required to get this together. And what does that do? That helps us to what we call bake our cybersecurity in, along the way. Let's bake it in, as opposed to getting here and we try to bolt it on. And that's what, unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times. We're really not a lot of cyber awareness till about right here. And they go, oh, you know what? We got a system that we're gonna ready to sell and to the government, or ready to get out there, and we need to be sure that we can get a approval to operate this. And that's when they come scurrying into cyber. Hey guys, can you help us? And we look at them as if we're saying, well, we really wish you would have came to us back here, because coming to us here, there may be some design changes. There may be some things that we would want to have loved to see added in here, so we could actually put some of the controls in place early. So when we got here, it makes the whole process much easier. So that's what we want to do. We want to bake our cybersecurity in instead of bolting it on at the end. So that's how we put all that together from a system development lifecycle, and the criticality, and how important this class, what you guys are taking right now, the importance of understanding not just what a CISSP does or what having a security plus, but understand the core fabric of cybersecurity and how we build that in, and understand the risks, the threats, the vulnerabilities, and the business impact associated with each one of those. All right, so that summarizes up. We'll wrap it up. Okay, what do we talk about in this? Well, it's been 3 videos, right? In these sessions. Well, we start with governance. The why. What is the overarching policies? What is the doctrine? What are the things that we need to have in place to build a security program? And that security program should enforce our security principles of confidentiality, integrity, availability. Also help us to understand how we want to control access of subjects trying to get to objects. And then we can understand better the risk and the mitigation strategies associated with that. And from there, we talked about the risk management framework, one of multiple frameworks that exists. We just use that one as for the purpose of this class. Controls, countermeasures. We talked security in depth, and we just ended it up with bringing it all together. We also talked about roles. I don't have it on here, but yeah, very important to know the different roles and responsibilities within a cybersecurity organization. All right, guys, listen, I hope this helps you out. Like I say, I know this is a lot for the first week, but this is the foundational part of what we do. And if you can nail this down, everything else builds on top of that, and it makes the class so much easier. Listen, have a great week 1. Looking forward to any comments, looking forward to your discussions back in our discussion thread, as well as the work you're going to be doing in whichever track you select to go and you certify. God bless you. If you have questions, always reach out. Like I say, my contact information is on Blackboard in the learning management system. Mr. Wallington, have a nice day.